Hello, I'm Ariel Kiley. Welcome to the Starting Your Passion Project Masterclass. I'm so happy you're here. One of my passions is this exact topic of getting started and taking action and doing the thing you're really excited to do in this life. And your passion project could look like a number of things. It could look like wanting to write a book. It could look like doing an art project. It could also look like running a marathon or starting a nonprofit, or it just could come in any number of forms, but it's basically something that, sure, you don't have to do it. You can continue on with your life and still live without doing it. But life might be so much more interesting and exciting and fulfilling if you do it. And oftentimes there are simultaneous professional and monetary benefits to doing your passion project, in addition to it will likely touch and influence the world in a really positive way. So it has those ripple effects out into the planet and for humanity. So I love this topic. In my one-on-one coaching work, I very specifically work with people on developing strategies and pursuing and completing their passion projects. And at the end of this session too, after we go through all this, I'll tell you a little bit more about my one-on-one coaching work in case you're curious. And I'm going to offer you all a special if you do want to do that in the new year. Okay, so first of all, shut down or turn off any distractions that you can. So I know when you're watching a Zoom class like this or a part of a Zoom class like this, it can be easy to just like, oh, I'll just click over to my phone or I'll click over to this screen. But when you do that, your attention dissipates and you're going to get so much less from what I'm offering. So shut off distractions if you need to. You can lock the door or shout to the people in your house, hey, I'm busy for the next hour. So you can really get the most from this. I also encourage you to have a notebook nearby. I'm going to invite you to take some notes throughout our session. And I want to start by offering a little memory I have of running a marathon, because this provides a really good metaphor for what it is to pursue and complete a passion project. So when I was 28 years old, I decided I wanted to run a marathon. And it was basically because I was in a huge slump. I was let off from my job because it was a 6 months on, 6 months off job. So I wasn't working. I was an administrative assistant. I had done a yoga teacher training and I loved the idea of being a yoga teacher, but I was running these donation only classes and there would be literally 1, 2, if I was lucky, maybe 3 people would come to those classes. Sometimes they donate, sometimes they wouldn't. There were even really sweet homeless people that would sometimes wander into the class. And I'm like, that's okay. They need yoga too, but I can't pay the bills with this. And it's not really the potential I felt I had as a yoga teacher. So I was also kind of stuck and frustrated and wondering, am I going to basically be doing kind of glorified receptionist work for the rest of my life? I hoped not. The only thing I could really think to do, though, was run a marathon. Because I thought if I run a marathon, everything in my life has got to change. If I overcome that goal, if I have that breakthrough. So I went online. I found the simplest possible marathon training structure that I could do. It was a 6-month training and it just showed me week by week, this is what you have to do. Increase your miles in this way, do this kind of cross training. And 6 months from now, you'll be able to run 26 miles. So I set a little time aside in my schedule every day, and I just started following this program. And little by little, week by week, my mileage started increasing. It was very simple. All I needed to do was like buy some running shoes, which I did, and show up for this program. And I would run. I got up to 6 miles and I got up to 8 miles. And I got up to 10 miles and I was feeling really proud of myself. And then I hit the 12-mile mark and things kept going wrong. Like I started getting shin splints and I had to figure out how to deal with that. And different issues kept happening when around the 12-mile mark where I just couldn't seem to get past it. And it made me feel like maybe I'd have to quit. Maybe I couldn't make it to 26. 26 was just too far, too much. It probably wouldn't happen for me. But then I persevered and I just kept figuring out how getting a masseuse to help me deal with the pain. I just had her massage my lower legs to deal with those tension patterns. And I remember the day that I broke 12 miles, and it wasn't just physically running that felt significant. I broke through something in my mind that was like, oh my goodness, I'm a person who can run more than 12 miles. After that, I did a little half marathon as part of my training in Ojai, because I was living out here in LA at the time. And then I kept going all the way until I hit 22 miles. I was running big, huge laps around Beverly Hills. I tried to go to the prettiest neighborhoods to make it interesting for myself. And I flew to Vermont because it was my birthday month, flew to Vermont when I was 29 to run the marathon in my home state of Vermont. And something really beautiful happened when I went there. My family, my parents divorced when I was 10 years old, and they aren't close. My mom and dad and those two sides, they tend to stay pretty separate. They've gotten better over time. But that day, the day that I was running my marathon, they all came together, the two sides of my family, my sister, my brother-in-law, my boyfriend at the time, they all strategized. And like running is generous term for what I did, but I jogged, I did not walk. I kept chugging along, and strategically at different parts of that course, there would be my dad cheering for me, and then my mom, and then my boyfriend, and then my sister. And it was the most incredible day of just feeling my family's support, feeling really proud of myself. And we all celebrated at the end. And I had that incredible feeling that just comes with, I set my mind to it 6 months ago. I didn't know if I could do it, but I showed up for the training and I freaking did it. And I didn't walk once, I did it. And the other thing that happened in addition to running the marathon, and just so you know, I've maybe run a total of like 20 miles since then. I'm not a runner. It's not something I stuck to. But what happened also in the course of running that marathon is by the end, it had worked out that I had met with, and I wasn't even asking for interviews. Friends were hooking me up with interviews of yoga studio owners. By the end, I had enough yoga teaching gigs that I could support myself as a yoga teacher. And I saw that not just running the marathon was really powerful for me as a catalyst to feel accomplished, but it also provided this kind of parallel growth in another part of my life and helped me break through and become a full-time yoga teacher, which was a much better fit for me and kind of launched my whole career in my 30s as a yoga teacher full-time. So the marathon is like, I don't think any of you are planning on running a marathon. I don't know, or maybe you have. The point isn't to do a big physical feat for a passion project unless you have that call. The point is the different phases of training and running that marathon, actually we can apply to almost any passion project and what happens along the way. So that's a little framing device I'm going to use as I take you through the rest of this masterclass. So passion projects are wonderful to complete on their own, but as I said, they're also catalysts for change in other parts of your life. And when you get going on your passion project, one of the really amazing things is it just ignites your life force. It changes your world, your field expands, possibilities arise, and you have this great feeling of just being more and more alive. It also facilitates an inner feeling of just having higher value as a human, an increase in your self-worth, an increased feeling of fulfillment. Even if no one's seen the fruits of your labor yet, when you choose to do your passion project, you feel like something special and important is happening right here, right now. And I had this funny experience in my early 30s when I was I had a passion project of, I wanted to write a blog post every day for 6 months. I just had this feeling. I just wanted to get my creative juices going. It didn't have to be perfect. Just write a blog post every day for 6 months. And at the time, I was also in a lingering involvement with an ex-boyfriend of mine who lived just up the street, not far from me. But it was this kind of relationship that I just couldn't shake. I kept trying to get attention from him, and I wanted him to like me and all that stuff that can happen with that. But when I was I think I was only about 3 weeks into doing my passion project of writing my blog post every day, my feelings of valuing his attention, which was not high quality attention, by the way. This was not a connection that should have been revived, even though it had been revived. My feelings of wanting his attention just started to dwindle and diminish. And I remember one evening I was at his house and he was kind of half paying attention to me. And I started just thinking about how excited I was about my blog post I was writing the next day. And I realized I didn't even want to be there. I wanted to go home and work on something that was actually deeply fulfilling for me. And so I left, I got on the bus and I came home and I actually worked on my blog post a little bit that night because I was so excited. So there's this thing too of like not being going out in the world to get your needs met or get a feeling of value and validation. You're doing it for yourself, and that really can help you prioritize the other choices you're making in your life. So, and then finally, I mentioned this in the beginning, but the other thing is I have a sense of who all you are, and whatever your passion project is, it is most certainly going to be a gift to the world. It's going to be a gift to you personally, to your family that you've done this, to your community, to the world at large. So there's all this great stuff it does for you to do your passion project, but it's also probably something the rest of the world needs, or else you wouldn't have the urge, you wouldn't have the call to do it. Okay, so that's my introduction of why we should do passion projects. And now I want to take you through the steps. I have 6 steps of starting your passion project so you can actually get going now or in the new year. So the first step is motivation. And after this, I'm going to also ask you if you have any questions too. I want to make sure we're connected here. But the first step I want to offer you is motivation. So I'm going to put that here. And motivation is important because you need to feel inwardly motivated to actually do your passion project. And the questions I'd love for you to answer in your notebook right now are: what's most important to you about taking action and pursuing your passion project? What appeals to you about what I've shared so far in terms of what your passion project can do for you? So I'm going to put these questions into the chat box so you can see them. What's most important to you about taking action and pursuing your passion project? And what appeals about what I've shared so far? Will you take some notes in your notebook about that? And we're not even naming what your passion project is yet. This can just apply to any old passion project. Or if you know specifically what it is, you can connect it to that. And it could certainly be something I haven't said yet. I've just kicked off writing my second book, a book about questing, nature questing. And I'm just so excited to immerse myself in that topic. I'm on day 3 of my writing, and it's so fun just to be basking in this topic I love. And I would love to hear from any of you if you have any questions or if you're open to sharing anything about your motivation. It can be really powerful to hear other people's motivation too, because it just helps stoke the fire for all of us of what we're doing. So if any of you are willing to come off mute, I've got my eye on the list here and I'll see you come off mute and ask any questions or share anything about your motivation. I'd love to hear from at least one of you on this first step. Yes, Joe.
Okay, so hi Ariel. Hi everyone.
Hi, great to see you.
Great to see everyone. Okay, so in order to explain my motivation a little bit, I have to give you a little bit of background. So in 2019, my wife and I started a nonprofit organization to establish a lot of things for people with intellectual disabilities, primarily integration with the broader community. It's based on the fact that our daughter has Down syndrome. So, but 2019 was the beginning of COVID, and that made it really hard to get people integrated that time. So in 2020, things started to lighten up a little bit, and we kicked off with our first fundraiser. We did really well, far better than we expected. And all this is driven by the motivation of a learning we had with our daughter. When she went to school, she was mainstreamed with pretty much the rest of the population in school. And as much as it meant to her, it meant just as much, we observed, to the typical population she went to school with. And to this day, she still has friends. She's 27 now. She still has friends who she meets and socializes with and works with. And our goal is not only, most of these people with IDD, about only 19% of them ever work a day in their lives. So a job is a good thing. But another thing is for people to be able to work with her and experience what it's like to be around somebody who normally we would describe as disabled, just to get that feeling of who they are and who they have to offer to a community. So our primary goal now is to establish a coffee shop where the primary employees would be people with intellectual disabilities, and the place would be open for the typical population to come in and spend some time and learn what this population has to offer them. So that's the biggest motivation we have. It's not just for our daughter and people like her to get a job. She already has jobs, but it's what can that population do, which we characterize as disabled, for the benefit of a wider community and achieve greater integration. So,
love it. It's a gift to the typicals.
yeah.
Yeah. And there's just so much embedded in that in terms of education and understanding and community and connection. Wonderful, Joe. And Joe, I just have one more question. I just wanted to look at my notes. Just for you personally, how does it feel for you to know you're creating this, like even in a purely selfish way?
Good question. It feels rewarding, but it also feels like I'm giving back. I'm owed from the gift of our daughter. I mean, most people will, when they first hear you have a daughter with a disability, it's, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. And, I don't know, you have to live it to understand that it's not what you typically would expect it to be. It's something I would never trade for a second. And I feel like if I can convert a few other people to the same kind of mindset through this kind of an experience, I'm giving back what I got from the benefit of our daughter.
Love it.
Yeah, thanks.
Amazing. Thank you, Joe. I think that giving back feeling is definitely often a part of passion projects. It's like we've received a wealth of information or connection. We want to offer it, pay it forward. Carolina, I saw you were off mute for a second. Did you have something you wanted to share or ask?
I don't think I want to share it right now. This was so beautiful, Joe. I'm just in awe. So maybe later.
You're basking in the Joe.
I'm basking in the Joe. Mine was just very selfish, and but it was all around the same feeling of.
Will you share the feeling?
Yeah, sure. I mean, actually, the motivation was the feeling. The feeling good. that you're doing something for the world, or for one person in the world. It doesn't matter really.
Love
Yeah.
it. Love it. Thank you, Carolina.
Excellent.
Great. So I hope you all got a little taste of your own motivation. And that's really important. And often that's what's missing when I work with people in the beginning in the coaching relationship, because they want to do this thing, they think they should do this thing, but they aren't connecting in their hearts and in the broader sense of like, just accomplishing it isn't even the ultimate benefit a lot of the time. It's the process, it's the engagement in the process, it's the feeling. So when you get in touch with the motivation, it really helps you do the next steps in this process. So the next step is to, pretty straightforward, define your passion project. Now, Joe gave us a great example of defining his passion project to help the typical population understand and benefit from connection with the intellectually disabled population. And he actually jumped ahead to what step 3 is in talking about the coffee shop. But for us right now, the main thing is just saying, like, what is this passion project you want to do to the best of your ability? So for instance, my book I'm writing, my Lady Quest book I'm writing, is I want to write a short instructional book that will help people, in particular people who identify as women, go to nature to reconnect with themselves and clarify their path forward. That's my passion project I'm working on there right now. So for you, and I'm going to put again this in the chat, naming and defining it brings clarity. What do you know about it? What's the urge? What is it? Write as much as you can. And I would love to hear any questions or reflections on this topic. If any of you are willing to pop on and maybe you want clarification, or you just are like, okay, yeah, I want to try putting into words what this passion project is, because that's really helpful too. Monica.
So I don't know if I got it like correct, because there is no still clarity for what the passion project that I intend to do. Like I know what lets me up, but still there is no clear cut that, okay, this is the passion project that I want to pursue.
Okay, so what do you have? Like, what do you have that's the general idea?
So the general idea is like, I really want to share the mindfulness techniques in a way that we can use them in day-to-day activities, so that like I personally have experienced that I don't go through the emotional toll of like being anxious or being upset or being worried or being triggered. And even if I do get, I have the tools in my pocket which I can use them and experience how it feels to be on the other side. And when I implement all those techniques with my patients, and at the end of the session, like if I'm just doing like a regular physical therapy treatment with my patient, then it doesn't make me feel that content and satisfied when I'm able to use my mindfulness techniques and when I'm able to help the patient to come on the other side, to see the other side, to experience the freedom, and to just feel empowered. That really lifts me up.
Yes. So you want to share mindfulness techniques to help people in all kinds of situations. It sounds like in daily life with a broader population, it sounds like. So you
Mhm.
have been sharing it with your patients as a physical therapist, but there's this wanting to shape it into something for the broader population. That's enough for this step. In,
Okay,
in step 4, I'm going to ask you to do a little bit more, but that's enough for this step.
got it.
Yeah, love it, love it.
Thank you.
And I think a lot of times, sometimes because we don't have the definition yet, we just stop and wait, and we can wait for weeks, months, years. So it does take a little challenge sometimes to your brain to say, no, brain, we're gonna define what this is. And it just starts by saying, okay, what do I know? What do I know? I want to help people get these tools of mindfulness. My life is so much easier than I see other people's is because I have these techniques. So we're just calling in what you know. Does anyone else have a question or anything they want to share on this step? Okay, shall we go on to step 3? Okay, so step 3 is positive ripples. And positive ripples is acknowledging how it will change your world and the world at large. So in step 1, you may have touched into this some, you may not have, but now we're kind of taking a broader view and just looking how, if you do this pretty well, it doesn't have to be perfect, but if you are able to create something out of this passion, how will it positively change the world? Your world and the world. I'm going to put this in the chat. And just let yourself dream on it. And you can imagine like, if it were to reach huge potential, what would that look like? With my Lady Quest book, I feel like if it were to really reach the heights of its potential, people would have such a deeper relationship with nature, and it would affect how we care for the environment, and it would affect the kind of careers people are creating for themselves and the impact they're making in the world. So what is the biggest, or what is the potential from small to large of the ripples, positive ripples? And don't think what you're doing has to be obviously of service. If it's more of a private thing, it still can positively affect the world. So it doesn't have to be that you're getting on a platform to teach or something to positively change the world. I have a very dear cousin, my cousin Isaiah, and he traveled with the Hugging Saint Amachi for a long time and worked for her. And I remember he spent 2 years of his life creating a devotional drawing. And I don't think it was to her. I never actually saw the drawing. I would love to see it. But it was this passion project to complete this drawing. And he wasn't an artist even. And even just hearing about his commitment to completing this one drawing was so moving to me, especially when there's so much excess happening. So I'd love to hear from any of you on step 3. Any questions about this, or perhaps a way you realized your passion project could positively affect your world or the world that you weren't even thinking of before? This is very helpful because it helps us stop thinking of what we're doing as selfish and start realizing that following our passions is being a part of the whole. And even if the vibration you emit is more positive, and the people you walk by on the street, you're kinder to because you're doing your passion project, that's huge. Yes, Monica.
So this came to be very clear to me that when I do what I feel is like when what lifts my heart and soul, it will have like a positive effect in not only like on the families, but also as parents, how they can empower their kids and not kind of be an authority to them, rather than giving them the environment to just grow, just help them grow. And the relationships would be much more easier. People would be more accepting, resilient, and kind of like just appreciate each other's differences rather than like blaming. And at my end, I feel like very much freedom. And just like how the water flows, no matter where it is, kind of like go with the flow. What tomorrow life is going to bring, we have no control. But just being grounded in all the positives and the negative experiences means a lot to me.
Yes, yes. And so thinking about how that will affect the parenting and then the children, like there's a ripple effect, there's a positive ripple effect through time. If we think about our own parents and the work they did to give us something a little better than what they had and how that affects us and then our children and our children. So it's like you can't even measure those ripple effects through time. It's like planting seeds that are going to grow. Wonderful. Anything else anyone has on this topic? Any questions or confusions or comments? Okay, I'm going to go on to the next one, which is step 4. It's MVP, minimum viable product. Now, I got this term when I used to just love studying business practices. I still do some, but I was in a real immersive phase for a while. And I studied all kinds of business books. And one of them was a book called The Lean Startup. And it was about how to create startup businesses in a really smart way so they could succeed instead of dumping a bunch of money into them and then failing and not knowing what happened. And they talk about creating the minimum viable product. So what is the simplest form the business can take while it's still viable and it's still doing what you set out to do, but you're able to accomplish that really efficiently, and also then from there be able to kind of test it in the market and see which direction to grow in. So if we take, and this is where Joe's example of the coffee shop is great too. It's like, what is the minimum viable product? What is the simplest thing that he and his organization can create first that will start to bring this work to the world? And the coffee shop sounds like a really awesome kind of microcosm of making this happen that could also serve as a model that could become bigger and bigger. Now, a minimum viable product is really important to prevent overwhelm. A lot of times when coaching clients come to me and they want to do something big, they have such a huge vision in their mind that it's completely debilitating, and they don't do anything. So bringing it down to size, what is the simplest version of this that you can create that will bring you a step further? For example, with my book, Lady Quest, I'm like, this book is not going to be more than 120 pages. I want to keep it concise, and I'm going to frame it as basically an embellished instruction manual on how to take a nature quest. When I think of it in this way, I can imagine it. I'm self-publishing on Amazon. I'm not interested in trying to get a big publisher. This is something I can accomplish in 4 to 5 months, I believe. And that means I'm motivated to actually set out and do it. So for you, what is your minimum viable product? I'm going to put this in the chat. What's the simplest form it could take and still feel like you did it? Now, this doesn't mean that you won't do a grander form one day or that you won't turn it into a grander form. Just see if what is the simplest form you could take. That would also be like, oh, I did that. When I ran my marathon, I wasn't trying to break any records, right? I was just trying to not walk that marathon. And if I crossed the finish line, that would be having done it. If I wanted to run more marathons after that and go faster or do other challenges, I could have, but that wasn't necessary for me with that project. So super curious for you. Any questions on this topic? Or any insights about what a minimum viable product is for your passion project? I'd love to hear from one of you. You can just come on off mute. Yes, Zilka.
This, but I've been wanting to continue writing I don't want to say my book because it's not just my pages on my childhood in Africa. And, I started 10 years ago, and I've done a lot of workshops and classes, and it really helps me then to be committed. But when I'm on my own, I just don't do any daily writing practice. So your last newsletter really inspired me, but I haven't started, but it's in my mind. And what I love about this minimum viable product, I just thought, a book is just so, right now it's really overwhelming, even though I enjoy the writing process. So I thought maybe I just start with an essay, maybe I'll try to write an essay and just see how that goes. And maybe, there will be the foundation for the book, because it's definitely might take less time. So I just had that idea after you said, what's the simplest form?
Yes, brilliant. And so many books have been based on essays too. It's often when someone crafts an essay with a really exciting idea or topic, it's the launch pad for writing a book. So, and for you to get the creative juices going, start to get things down, burrow in and find what is the central idea that's really compelling to you that you want to share. that is so important, and that can turn into a much bigger product. So yes, yes, yes. Joe had an unexpected thing come up. He had to go, but he's very excited. Okay. Next is, okay, step 5. The simple path. Step 5. So the simple path. Now, this is just like, remember when I got online and I found a very simple training program for the marathon? And it wasn't the most extreme one. It was one that felt doable. And I carved out time each day to do it. And I just followed that program. So basically, the question here is, what steps do you need to take to get there? What's the easiest way to fit it into, and what's the easiest way to fit it into your schedule? So thinking about the minimum viable product, putting this in the chat, what steps do you need to do that? And how could it fit into your schedule in a way that works for you? You can think about habit stacking too. This is from Atomic Habits. It's when you put your, like, let's say you are writing a book. You stack that after a certain other thing you do each day. So maybe you wake up in the morning, you meditate, you have a cup of tea, and you know, once you're having that cup of tea after meditating, you write for 45 minutes. That's kind of like what I do. By the way, you don't have to be that like all wellnessy about it in your morning. It could be, you get up, you work your crazy job all day, you stop by In-N-Out Burger, you get, a double cheeseburger. And then once you have the double cheeseburger, it's time to pull off to the side of the road and work on your thing. Like, it could be any habit stack. It doesn't have to sound all wellnessy. So simple path. Write down what your simple path could be. And any questions about or reflections on your simple path? This is where, when I work with people in the coaching environment, I really help them strategize their simple path, just those step by step, and having that weekly accountability and positive feedback and enthusiasm for continuing to take those steps. This can be the hardest part, is just having the simple path and walking the simple path, but it has its own momentum. Once you do it and you're making more and more progress, yes, you'll run into some blocks sometimes, like I did at mile 12, but you just do what you need to do to get back on the program. And it leads you to the outcome. And it's so fun. Any questions or reflections on that? Okay. we've got one more step I'm going to offer you. And step 6 is believing. So this may be the thing that stops people the most. And it's just choosing to believe this is possible. This is worth it. I can do this. Beautiful things are going to happen in my life because I did this. And sometimes belief is stronger one day and weaker another day, but continually, gently ushering out thoughts of disbelief, of shame, of inadequacy, gently move, saying, are those true? If they're not true, which they never are completely true, is it helping move me forward? If it's not, it's got to go. And choosing to believe and plant beliefs in your mind and your body. I can do this. I am going to do this. One thing that absolutely blew my mind up was I was recently watching the documentary about Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and their rivalry, which made the NBA very popular. And later on, it showed how when Magic Johnson was diagnosed with HIV, it was a time when that was like a death sentence in our culture. The medications were not as far along as they are now, and people just thought that meant he's done for. And Magic Johnson got up in front of all these reporters and all these fans that were tormented, and he just said, I'm going to be fine. Like, y'all, don't worry so much. I'm going to be okay. I've got this. He had such strong belief that he was going to make it through and be okay. And he was right. Like, obviously, he has incredible access to resources, but what an amazing example of someone who believes and then is going to take steps based on that belief. So the tricky thing about belief is we believe for ourselves. We believe because it makes for a more positive, happy, wonderful life to believe and take steps out of belief. Belief doesn't guarantee you'll get the outcome you want, because that's not always up to us, the way your life plays out or what the world does in response. But choosing to believe and live based on that belief is so nourishing and enriching, and more often than not, actually can lead you to the outcome you want. So my question to you on believing is, what do you need to believe to take action on your passion project starting in 2023 or sooner? What do you need to believe? And you can write down a few different things to believe. Sometimes the belief just has to do with, I can find the time in my schedule. I will find it. One of the beliefs I'm holding around writing my next book is I can write at any time of the day. The conditions don't have to be perfect for me to write. I'd love to hear some of your beliefs if you're open to sharing. It's so fun to be able to borrow beliefs too. Carolina, do you have a belief for us?
Yeah, I have done Lady Quest with you, of course. So I've done this a few times before. And the change today is that my belief is not only that I can do this and that I have something to say, which maybe could improve some things for others, but also that I must do this. That's my belief.
Oh, so good. And when you feel I can and I must, what do you feel in your physical body?
Energy flowing
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
forward.
Mm-hmm.
So
Wonderful.
I started with something different. I started with just, something along the side of writing better poems about nature. But I'm actually, during the course of this workshop, I'm transforming it into, how can I connect? Like, how can I put on shows where I include the poems? How can it be a concert about nature or
Ooh,
nature
ooh.
concert or whatever, And I'm already like, I was thinking I could like improvise, I could start the concert by improvising to the sounds of the forests that I just record, stuff like that. So
Amazing. Y'all, Carolina is a concert pianist, so she's an incredible pianist. That sounds amazing, Carolina. What a meditative experience that would be too.
yeah. I've been thinking of that, but it somehow didn't
Yeah,
come together.
you give it your immersive attention and then the passion project reveals itself.
Mhm.
What a beautiful merging of your relationship to nature and the music. I want to hear more. Who else has a belief they're open to sharing? I wonder if Chrissy would share a belief with us.
I was waiting for you to ask. No. It's actually now a negative belief because I did fine through the steps 1 to 4. And then with step 5, I kind of felt stuck and blocked. And doubting my idea, my project, whether it is too big. And now in the end, I'm not so, it's not easy for me to believe in it because I kind of feel that I'm overwhelmed and that I need someone else to support me and to accompany me through the process, that I cannot do it by myself.
Yeah. So what is are you open to sharing what the project is that feels like it might be pretty big?
Yes, I work in the creative world, and I am a person who likes to be inspired a lot by everything: design, food, music, arts, whatever. And but I also like beach life and holiday vacation life. And I'm half Italian, so I spend most summers in Italy. And I always go buy houses that are empty, and I think, wow, that would be a very good property to turn into a nice hotel bed and breakfast with a nice tropical garden. So it wouldn't be a usual hotel, but a hotel with a spiritual touch, like inviting yoga teachers to give yoga classes and meditation classes, and invite food stylists or foodists to introduce healthy food. And I got inspired by places in Los Angeles, actually. And I thought, wow, this needs to get to Italy because now is the time that they are open for it. And it would be like a first mover thing for me, you know? but I guess I don't have that much experience in that. And I'm asking myself whether it is a realistic idea or whether it is just a fantasy that I like to think of.
That's so fun. Well, with your process, because it's a kind of a big project and involves having a big building and a whole working business that you don't have experience in yet, I would suggest you let your first set of work around it just be immersive research and interviews and talking to people about it and just learning more and painting really the vision for yourself of what it would be like and sharing your passion with other people while you discuss it and while you get more information. Because it's interesting when we're following a passion, we don't yet know how it will work out, but it might work out in unexpected ways for you. Like it might be that there's an investor that already has a similar idea, but they need someone to run the property and come up with the schedule and the people that are coming in. There might be a collaborative piece. But I would suggest, Chrissy, that you just like take it, just break the steps down to smaller bites to keep learning about it. And in the meantime, it would be so fun to be doing all that. You get to take research trips to the places similar and think about the kind of experience you'd want to curate. So there might be just belief wise for this step, like I know I can always find the next steps to take. Like you don't necessarily know the whole path yet, but you can always find the next step. So it's just broken into smaller chunks. And as you pursue it, you'll find out, am I meant to have this business? Or did pursuing this reveal something else I'm meant to do, or cause me to meet someone who's going to be an important person in my life, or cause me to move somewhere that I'm meant to move? Because sometimes we don't know what the following the passion project is going to bring out in us, but choosing to follow it and take the adventure, by doing that, it's then revealed.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I understand what you mean. Like your marathon turned to yoga teacher. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
trust the urge still. So what's a belief that you could put in your pocket that feels supportive of you continuing to explore this?
Mm, maybe that I don't have to think big at the moment, but that I don't know, actually, that maybe nothing should limit me just to be curious about it and do the research and talk to people about it.
Yeah, like I can follow by following my curiosity, doing research and talking to people, the path forward will be revealed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
How does that feel?
That feels actually very relaxing now. Yeah, it's relaxing me a little bit.
Good.
Yeah. Thank
Yeah,
you.
you're welcome. Thank you for sharing. So we're at the hour now. So I just wanted to share with you all, if you do want one-on-one support, this is exactly what I do in my 6-month coaching container. It's 26 sessions. We work together week by week by week and make sure your passion project is coming to life. So if you want that one-on-one support, anyone who's in this workshop, I'm offering a discounted price for those 26 sessions. Instead of $4,200, I'm doing $3,900. So you can just let me know by Friday if you're curious about that. We can do a consult call. We can talk about it and see if that's something you specifically want to do. But that's like if you just want to like start the engine and have me right there in the passenger seat with you, making sure you're driving forward and making your passion project come true. It's there for you. So I wanted to note that. You can just reach out to me if you're curious about that. And also, Lisa, if you are available to say hi real quick, we haven't gotten to hear from you at all. Would you be open to sharing anything about what you want to create or any questions you have?
But I was feeling stuck And so when I saw that you were doing this seminar, I wanted to join in to just find out another passion project. And then I realized as we're going through it that I'm actually involved in a passion project, and I didn't really have a name for it. And one of the steps that you had, define your passion project, I realized that when I started it, I had no idea. I mean, it was like, I had no idea what I was doing. It was like, I just wanted to do this. And the more that I did it, the more clarity I got. But the clarity was not there at the beginning. So it was really hard. I couldn't define it, you know, in the beginning. But then as I went through it, it became more clear to me what was going on and why I was doing it, and what benefit it had to me, because for me, it was a very selfish thing.
Will you share about it? Will you share a couple details with us?
Yeah, I was walking through the park at the height of COVID, Washington Square Park, and I saw some people doing a martial art with sticks, 4-foot long sticks. And it looked really interesting, and they were out there, and it was, you know, exercise, and it looked really wonderful. And I walked up to the sensei and I asked, are you taking on any additional students? And she says, what's your background in martial arts? And I said, I don't have anything except maybe ballet. And she said, well, okay, come the next week, and you can, you know, start. But I want you to watch today to see what it is that you're looking at. So I really just thought it was swinging a stick, getting exercise, and that's what it was going to be for me. But over time, it became a community. Over time, I was actually doing paired practice with people. So I was building up a confidence, and that translates into other things that calms me down in the world. And so it was just something I was doing for myself that I felt had no benefit to anybody else. But like you said before, it did have ripple effects, because it's opened me up to a different community, and a different way of life, and a different confidence and way of seeing things. So
The passion project came and found you.
yeah.
You stumbled upon it. That's marvelous. It makes me think. I mean, I think often it is like an accidental encounter when we realize, like, I wonder, did Chrissy just wind up at a hotel like this, and her whole mind was opened to this possibility? Or like, it's such a great example of how sometimes we think we're choosing them, but sometimes they're just finding us, and it develops into something. So do you want to shape it into something more specific, Lisa, or do you feel like it's already unfolding, or do you want something to dig your teeth into more in the new year?
Well, I didn't know what I wanted to do with it. And then I learned that there's different testing that you can do. And the testing is something I never even thought of. In fact, when I was first exposed to it, I didn't even know I was doing paired practice with other people. And so now there's testing involved. And then after that, there is actual swordsmanship that I would be doing. So I'm not sure how I'm going to share that, but my photography, I've taken photos for the dojo, and has actually helped them. I don't know what it's gonna be for, but you know, all the different tools in my toolkit, from the therapeutic yoga certification through, you know, knowing about the role model balls, and just everything that has happened in my life with executive coaching. There's something, I don't know what it is. I do not have the clarity. There's something going around. And that's what I was hoping to kind of, in today's session, maybe define more for myself, but I don't have it yet.
It might be interesting for you to do a mind mapping session where you just have even like an empty circle in the middle. that, or maybe it says project. And around that, you write all the different things that feel like they might be a part of it. The new martial art, the yoga therapy, the photography, and just mind map all those. You can even draw pictures. So you have this big, I think I have a mind map right here, actually. I can show you. My lady book. Here it is. So you mind map all these different things that you're like, I know these are a part of it, but I don't know how. And just keep asking yourself the clear questions to help direct your mind. If you want a project, to help direct your mind to reveal what that is sooner rather than later, because it's probably in there.
Yeah, because the only project right now is myself. You know?
Yeah.
So
That's the original project. That's the one
it's
that
the original
always,
project.
it's always underway. Yeah. Great, Lisa. That's
Thank
really
you.
exciting, though. That'll be fun to see what that turns into. They always use all parts of us, really, like so many things in life. Anything else you all want to dive into? Anything you want just kind of personalized coaching on, or any questions you have? Feel free to come off mute. I'd be happy to explore anything else that feels important to this topic, or just helps you feel empowered coming off this session. Are we complete for now?
Ariel, there's one thing I just wanted to mention.
Mhm.
One of the people who is coaching me in this, he said, don't stop seconds before the miracle happens.
Wonderful. Absolutely. And oftentimes it is that too. It's like, that's like my mile 12. It's like that you're just running into this. It's not happening. It's not happening. It's not happening. And that's when like the belief is that the belief is that like tiny rope bridge that you just like stay on your belief, just keep going and see what is revealed with your perseverance. Love it. All right. Well, let's wrap it up. Thank you so much for being here. It's a delight to see you all. I hope this helps launch you toward your passion project more and more. Do reach out to me if you're curious about coaching. I love, love, love helping people create their passion projects. The vicarious pleasure is like nothing else. I'm like, I can do mine, but if I can be a part of other people's too, that just makes me so happy. So reach out if you're curious. And in the meantime, have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Ariel.
Bye. Thank
Thanks
you.
so much, Michelle.
Thank you so much. Bye.
You're welcome. Bye.